Good morning. Welcome back to my sewing room. My name is Chelsea, and this is my friend Cliff from our service bay.
Hello.
He is here to give us some great tech tips on Brothers today.
Yep.
Fantastic. Would you like the close up, Cliff?
Yeah, please. Not on me. On
There
the
we
on,
go.
on the machine.
On the machine.
What did you title this? This take up lever, right?
Brother take up your lever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll start with that. The take up lever is one of the most important mechanisms in the machine because it allows the thread to move from the top through the needle to meet the bobbin thread. And it's strange. Brothers seem to have this little weird idiosyncrasy to them where thread will break at the needle, and because thread is somewhat elastic, it will spring up and pop up inside the machine up to here, this thing right here. I'm going to try and put a little bit more light on it with my phone. Maybe. There we go. That's a little better, and it stays in focus. So this brass thing here is the main swivel point on the whole cam system. And in a few minutes, I'm going to back the camera up so we can see the whole machine. You can see the stuff that operates all this. But this right here, when thread breaks, can get caught wrapped and start wrapping around this. So what'll happen is if you had thread breaking at your needle or going into the fabric, it will spring back up inside the machine and then wrap around this because the machine is running. So you need to kind of watch for, if that happens, to turn your machine off right away. Because when thread wraps around here, it can start seizing. We've had some machines come in where you can't even turn the hand wheel anymore because so much thread has got bound up inside this that it seizes, it gets stuck. And you can't run the machine at all like that. It puts strain on everything, so you have to stop right away. This is a big fix. Sometimes, if it's been happening for a while and there's been thread building up in there, yet it keeps spinning, it will get pressed down in between this brass ring right here and against this plate right here. And it gets compressed inside there and it starts to give straining and stuff. I have pulled so much thread out of these sometimes that it's compressed into like one piece because of the lubricants and stuff. So strings of thread come out as one chunk, one big wide chunk. It looks like a big chunk of lint, and it's actually compressed thread. If that's what's happening, then it puts pressure on the take-up lever right here. This bar right here that I'm pointing to. Like I said, I'm going to back the camera up in a second here. This bar then starts to tilt, excuse me, a little bit to the side. And then this being brass, just drop that on the floor. This being brass is a soft metal. It will start to skew and it'll oval inside the hole, and then you're going to get a whole bunch of crazy stuff that can start happening. This all has to be taken apart. So all this is your tension system and stuff all in here is all part of one rig. It all has to come out, and you got to tear it apart. It's a big job. It's not an inexpensive fix. Hopefully the part is fine and it doesn't have to be replaced as well, but sometimes it happens. So give me a minute. I'm going to back the machine up a bit now so you can see an overall shot of it. Turn it off. There we go. And Chelsea, you may have to do some focusing.
Looks pretty good, actually.
Hang on. Let's do this. Okay. So this is the other side. Right here. This is the other side of the system. So this is the big cam. When I turn the hand wheel, you can see it rotating. So all this controls the take-up lever. There's that brass ring I was talking about. So all this in here pivots on one another. And when thread gets wrapped around all this, it starts to seize. And this machine is in for maintenance. That's why you're seeing some dirty grease and stuff on it. We clean all that up. But what'll happen is as I'm turning this, if there's thread caught in there, it'll start to give you kind of a groaning sound when you turn the hand wheel, and it'll be really hard to turn the hand wheel. The minute that happens, you gotta bring it into us. You're not going to be able to fix it because the covers and everything have to come off to get at it. So now I'm going to back up the camera a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so this whole system here, this is your tension system. This is what controls your upper tension. It's these discs. And that all this has to be removed to get at that. So to alleviate thread breakage at the needle, you have to make sure that your thread needle relationship is good. That probably sounds strange, but I swear there could be a college dissertation on the relationship between thread and needle. You have to have the right size of needle, the right size of thread for the job that you're doing, and the right kind of needle. Or you will have thread breakage at the needle. The eye of the needle still is somewhat sharp, and that's usually where the thread breaks, because as the needle is pressing through the fabric, it's putting pressure on the thread up against the upper curve of the eye, and that's where it usually frays and breaks. If you see thread fraying, so if it breaks and you see a fraying, that means it's most likely frayed at the needle, or it's frayed, I'm going to lower this a bit, at your thread guide, this thing right here. And now this one is actually mangled. I can maybe show you that. There we go. Yeah, you can see it. Okay, so you see this little spring right here that's moving? That is supposed to be tucked up inside. It's all hanging out. So when that happens, your thread is going to rub against that. It's going to fray. You're going to get this fraying effect, and then it's going to snap. And then the thread's going to shoot up inside the machine and could possibly wrap around the take-up system. So you want to make sure the minute you start having thread breakage at your needle, you're using the right needles, you're using the right thread. So if you're doing embroidery, for example, and you're going through some really, really dense designs. So it's one design overlapping another design, overlapping another design. Your fabric, your stabilizer, your thread, the design itself is all fighting against the thread that's being pushed through all of that at the same time, which is making it strain against the eye of the needle. So you need to increase the size of needle. So go up to like a 90-14 embroidery needle, and chances are you won't have any problems. If you're using a 7511, and I know some companies on their embroidery designs and stuff say you should be using 7511. If that is happening, switch up to an 8012 and see what happens. That should alleviate the thread breakage at the needle. Excuse me. So that's the take-up lever system. That is kind of a thing that is unique to Brother. It happens to Bernina's sometimes, but it's a totally different cause than what's happening to the Brother machines. I am going to talk a little briefly about maintenance, though, because these are different. If you own both Brothers or Bernina's, you're going to know there's a massive difference between personal maintenance, the stuff that you're supposed to take care of yourself. So, not to make anyone seasick, but I'm going to move this around again. I think you can just leave it.
Oh, okay.
There's Chelsea. You able to focus that a little bit?
Yeah.
So this area here is the hook system and the feed module, which is all one unit on Brother machines. Bernina's there a little bit different the other way. Right there. Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, so excuse me. I'll get you to reduce that too. So this here is your main hook driver, and this is what helps create the stitch. Inside this is the black bobbin case. That's also called an inner rotary hook, and that it has a little hook on it as well. It's important that if you're sewing a lot, that you get in here and clean this out. Now you don't have to strip the machine like this. You just pull your stitch plates off. So you pull the plastic gray one off, you pull the metal one off, pull the bobbin case out, and clean all the lint out from inside here. And that, because what happens when lint builds up in there, it causes that plate, the inner rotary hook or your bobbin case, to start to lift a little bit, and you'll hear it rubbing against your stitch plates. You'll hear a little sound. That means there's lint that's gotten underneath there, and then you could end up getting needle strikes because that could get stuck. So always, like if you sew every single day for a couple hours, once a week you should probably clean this off Clean this out, pull all the lint out, get in between your feed dogs. So in between these guys right here.
Those get quite linty too.
These will fill up, especially if you're using minky and flannel and stuff. These fill up. And what happens when these fill up, the feed dogs can't raise. It pushes up against the stitch plate, but then it doesn't run to its highest. So all of a sudden you could be sewing at one point in time and your feed dogs are not feeding your fabric through, yet they're working. It's because they're not coming high enough because this has been filled with lint. So you can use your little brush to clean the lint out between here. Use a Q-tip for inside the rotary hook here, and just roll the Q-tip like so. And same within here, you're gonna get lint all through here, like through all these spots here, and just roll the Q-tip and it'll just pull it all out. Clean this off a little bit because you will have access to about this much. You'll see about this much forward when you pull your stitch plates off. And like I said, if you sew every single day, once a week is usually enough. If it's hours a day, 8 hours a day, you should probably do a quick clean, pull your gray plate off, pull your bobbin case out, and clean in here. You don't have to do all this all the time. You can just do this every day if need be. These are oil, excuse me, oilless. You don't have to oil the hook area in here like you do with Berninas. But you have to get a maintenance done every couple years because we need to oil this. It's that deep down inside the mechanism and stuff here needs oil and grease everywhere in the machine. So I'm going to back this up a bit again so you can see more of the machine. There we go. So everything that's moving here, all this up in here, goes all the way back into here. That all needs to be cleaned and lubricated by us. And these are complicated. That's why it takes time for us to do your machines. It takes the experience and knowledge to take care of these. There's lots of areas in there that we take care of, we clean out and lubricate that you can't get at. And you should do it once every 2 years or every 2.5 to 3 million stitches. Chelsea, got any questions?
Well, right now you're reminding me that I need to book my machine in for a service because I think it's been too long.
3.5 years is too long.
It's too long. Don't do what I did. Fabulous. Well, that was a lot of great information, Cliff.
You're welcome.
I learned a lot.
You're welcome.
I have not been cleaning my feed dogs well enough, is what
Gotta
I'm
clean your feed
hearing.
dogs. Everybody
your feed
forgets to
dogs.
clean in between the teeth there, and they forget it, and then all of a sudden the feed dogs aren't lifting anymore, and it's because you're creating felt pads.
Well, and that could be very problematic when you're trying to sew.
Yep.
So trying to quilt, it's not dragging it through. Trying to sew, it's not stitching at the appropriate speed.
Yep.
Because it's not pulling it through
Well,
as
and
fast as your
it
needle.
puts strain too. So when those feed dogs are being forced to press up against the stitch plate, it's putting strain on a cam. Again, there's another cam, which is an oval shaped disc that it creates the motion of the feed dogs up and down because it moves on this cam that's oblong, right? And it's a metal plate that's, I gotta get my orientation with the camera here. Sorry, I'm not good on camera. So there's a cam and there's a plate that sits on the cam. And as the cam rotates, it spins, this thing goes like this, creating your feed dogs to do the motion it's supposed to do, right? This is metal. This is made of a nylon type material. It's not nylon, it's similar. I'm not gonna use the actual terms because everybody go, what are you talking about? It will press against that plastic material and start wearing a groove in it.
Oh, no.
And then when that groove wears in there, your feed dogs are going to really misbehave. Switch it back to the machine quickly if you could.
There we go.
So these are the cams I was talking about, these things right here. So I'm going to rotate it. You can see them turning.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay. So what happens is that silver thing that's moving up and down right here, that thing there, that's the bar that sits on the cam. And it'll start wearing into the cam. In order to replace that,
Lot of pieces
all
have
of
to
this
come off.
has to come out.
That's a lot.
And we replace the module. So this whole thing gets replaced. That's how Brother does it. So you just pull all this out, but that's a lot of work. That's a lot of labor. The part itself is really not that bad. It's the time that it's like pulling a transmission out of a car.
That's a really good explanation, actually.
Yep. Think of your sewing machine as a car. Treat it the same as you treat your car. Oil changes are paramount. Keeping everything clean is paramount. and it will behave correctly. If you don't do that, it won't behave. They are just like a car. They are mechanically complex machines, and they need love and attention.
It sounds a lot like a puppy too.
Yeah.
Love and attention. That's really
about
cool.
it. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Cliff. That was awesome. I learned so much.
You're welcome.
Now I know how to better take care of my machine.
Mm-hmm.